Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Vibe Guide. This week we're back in the kitchen. We are back in the kitchen if you're watching on YouTube. Yeah, this week I feeling a little bit better. I didn't put out an episode last week, you guys. I wasn't having it. Like I've just been a little uninspired, a little like lacking creativity. I just am like a little run down at this point, a little bored. You know what I mean? Just like a little bored and just like, ugh. It's just kind of like the mundane life at this point, like dishes, laundry, dialysis, back to the dialysis center, then dishes, then laundry, then cleaning, then checking the mail, then changing my hummingbird feeders. That's actually like the highlight of my day, actually. Working out, you know what I mean? And I appreciate the mundane. Like, don't get me wrong. Cause this time a year ago, I was like, I'm tired of traveling around. Like, I just want to be at home and like chill. But I knew this, like, I know myself and I know like that Sag in me, the Sagittarius side in me. I just get bored and I just gotta go. So I have a vacation planned. Oh, it's like 2 weeks away. I'm just like, come on. And I know it will be here before I know it. So I just need a vacation. I need just like a reset button. I need to like get a change of scenery. That's it. So I'm just feeling a little blah. You know what I mean? But that's okay. I'm still like happy and fine. I'm just like, meh. You know what I mean? I just don't have like a lot of energy to like do shit. I'm just like kind of in a rut a little bit, I guess. Uh, which I figured would happen. I'd kind of like prepared myself for this because I knew I'm like literally upon like right on a year of being home. And I was like, I'll give myself a year of being back here and I'm gonna be ready to peace out again. And I'm definitely getting there. So this week is a little bit of like this topic just came up like so randomly and so interestingly. We're gonna have like story time this week, you guys. So just get cozy. Um, I wanted to talk about the idea of like legacy and like what we leave behind. And it was just such a random topic, I guess. Like I don't even it was just it the way it happened this week was so fascinating. You guys know like when I'm like in a little bit of a rut and like I don't have like all these ideas at the top of my head and I'm not feeling super creative and like I don't know, like when you're in that creative mode and like shit just starts flowing. It's like I haven't been that way in a while. So I've been like really relying on my spirit guides and my guidance to really help me figure out some topics for the podcast and like what would be super helpful for you guys and also like relative to my life and what I could talk about. And so interesting how it popped in this idea of legacy because you guys know the Olympics are on, which we all love. And if you follow me on Instagram, now I'm like obsessed with women's rugby. I mean, I just like could not believe it. I'm like, these girls are fucking bad to the fucking bone. Like, how did I miss this? Like, how have I missed this my whole life? Like, my Aries rising was just like, hell yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like that warrior energy. I was like, yeah, go fuck it up. You know what I mean? Like, these girls are bad, honey. Like, black eyes, stitches, broken noses, bloody noses. Like, dude, they put it all on the line out there in rugby. And like I know the men do too, but I was like, I've never watched rugby a day in my life. Like I'm like familiar with it because I am half Irish and like I feel like that would be in poor taste to not even know what rugby is or like a general idea of what it is. But I've never watched a game. I've never been interested. I always thought it was like a bunch of beefcake dudes that just wanted to like literally kill each other and just be like so aggressive. And I was just like, ugh, like I don't want to watch that. So I was like always turned off by it. My oldest brother played like for fun, I think, for a few years. And I just like never went and watched a game. I was never really invited to go watch a game, actually, I don't think. But I don't think I would have anyway. So like, but yeah, he played for a little bit and I was like, cool, that's cool. Good, like keep you in shape or whatever. I don't know. I just never was interested. So then when the Olympics came around, I have no idea how I got on this rugby train. I was on TikTok and I think a compilation of videos about Portia Woodman, and she has a hyphenated name. I don't know the other part of it. Sorry. I'm like so bad with names, you guys, for real. So that's not like trying to be disrespectful. I just can't remember her other name. I know it's Portia Woodman something. Anyway, she plays for New Zealand, and the compilation, I was just like jaw on the floor. I was like, yo, this girl is a fucking beast. Like, and like in the best way possible. I'm not saying that in like a bad way. Beast. I was just like, who is this girl? Like, whoa. And like, what is rugby about? Like, you're allowed to just like literally do whatever you want, I feel like. So then I kind of got down that rabbit hole. And then the Olympics started. And then somehow, um, I have no idea how I got on the Olympics because it wasn't like it was on the TV or like it wasn't like it was, I don't know. I just like kind of fell into it. And then I think I found Alona Mar on TikTok because of the US Olympics in general. Like they're all over TikTok. You know what I mean? And, so I think I found her, but I wasn't really interested. I thought her TikToks, like, were like a little stagey to me and like that kind of thing. I'm not usually into that, but I was like, oh, okay. Like, that's interesting. I didn't follow her, but I like saw a few of her TikToks and I was like, who is this girl? And like, she was talking about like body positivity and like kind of, like poking fun at herself. Like, I got bigger shoulders than most dudes and like, I'm still going to wear a dress. Like, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm stronger than most dudes, like, it's fine, and I can wear a full face of makeup and have a L'Oreal fucking contract and, like, I'm fine, you know what I mean? Like, and still be a badass on the rugby field. So I was like, "All right, like, respect." Like, I don't you know what I mean? So that kinda got my attention, and then I realized the very next day they had a match, and it was it New Zealand versus USA? Yeah, it was, and New Zealand beat USA, and I was, like, so pumped because I was like, "Is this gonna be like a Portia Woodman versus, like, Ilona Maher, like, showdown? Like, what is gonna happen?" And I actually missed the first 30 minutes, which I had no idea, you guys. This rugby sevens team, which I now know is, like, a condensed version of rugby, so it's, like, much shorter, and, like, honest to God, when I was watching it, I was like, "Did I catch the highlights? Like, was this a full game? Like, it went so fucking fast. Like, what is happening?" And, anyways, I was, like, glued in. I was like, "This is cool. Like, what's happening?" So we lost to New Zealand. New Zealand went on. They went on to the gold medal match, and we played for bronze, and we beat Australia, which if you wanna get started watching rugby, you guys, which I highly recommend, the women's rugby, the sevens team, start with the USA versus Australia gold medal or, bronze medal match because that was a fucking nail biter, and I was, like, up jumping up and down, like, I was so happy for them, I literally teared up when they won. It's the first time the USA's won a medal in rugby, and, yeah, I was just, like, super proud of those women, like, they're badass women, and of course, now you guys know, like, when I'm into something, I'm in it, so I've, like, researched all the girls and, like, followed a bunch of their stories and, like, very cool, down to earth, like, lots of respect to women rugby players, so, yeah, if you wanna start watching a match, like, I would suggest start there because that was a nail biter, it came down to, like, seconds, and we won in, like, the last, like, 5 seconds, it was just holy moly, it was so exciting. Um, so anyway, so watching that and then seeing New Zealand, um, I've always been like I love New Zealand. It's literally one of my favorite places in the entire world. I've been to quite a few countries, and somebody just asked me this the other day, like, probably a week ago, was like, "Where's your favorite place you've been? Like, you've traveled a lot." And, hands down sorry, hands down, New Zealand. It's always New Zealand, and I went when I was 18 or 19, and I'm 34 now, and it's still New Zealand. So, anyways, the girls, they played next. It was the same day. The New Zealand girls played, Canada. They beat Canada, so the New Zealand girls won gold, which I'm not surprised. They're, like, the best in the world. New Zealanders love rugby. I mean, it's, like, their number 1 sport over there, or down there, I guess I should say. So, yeah, it kind of and before this, I had kind of, like, meditated last week on, like, an episode topic, and the word legacy came up, and as you guys know, I didn't do an episode about it, and then once I watched the New Zealand girls, and then watching them in the gold medal, after they win, they do the haka, and I just got, like, so emotional, and all these, like, memories from New Zealand started flooding back, and, yeah, it was just like it brought up the word I had this example, which I'm gonna get to, like, just come straight into my mind, and it kinda, like, hit me like a gut punch again. I was just like, "Oh my god, I forgot about that," and wow, like how embarrassing that was. And like, I'm so glad I'm a different person now. And it brought up the word legacy for me, and it brought up the idea and the memory of like, wow, that's how someone's going to remember you. So I'll get into the story, but like that's how the legacy bit came up because I just was watching women's rugby and then New Zealand popped on and then I was like, "Oh my god, I remember my trip." And then this memory that I haven't thought of. I think of New Zealand often like if something reminds me of it, but I haven't thought of this specific memory in probably a decade. And I guess the word, legacy coming up just like brought that to the front of my mind. And I was like, you know what? This is such a good lesson for people and such a good reminder. So I'm going to talk about it on the podcast. So basically, when I was 18 or 19, I was in my biology class at VCU, which, if you guys know VCU, it's a massive university. And there was like 400 something people in my biology class. It was massive. And I just happened to sit on the aisle seat that day. And like right before class started, these people were like running through really quick and like handing out these flyers. And it said International Student Volunteers on the top. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like it immediately piqued my interest. And I was like, international check, volunteer check, like that would be fun. So I went online and I like did some searching. And I can't remember if I picked Egypt or they were like, you're going to go to Egypt. Like when I signed up, I can't remember how that went, but basically Egypt was the place that I was supposed to go. And because of like civil unrest and protests, they canceled that. And they were like, we're going to send you to New Zealand. And I was like, "Okay." Like, I was bummed because I really wanna go to Egypt, and then I was just like, "Ok like, where's New Zealand at?" Like, what are we gonna do down there? Like, what's up with New Zealand? Like, why do they need help? Like, what you know what I mean? I was, like, curious more than anything, and then I realized they filmed Lord of the Rings there. So then, like, my nerd in me was like, "Oh my god, that's exciting. I'm gonna do, like, a tour." And, yeah, like, I was not a Harry Potter fan, you guys. I was 100% Lord of the Rings. Like, I literally was obsessed with Lord of the Rings. I almost, like, decorated my whole room as, like, an elven, like, castle or, like, in the movie, the elven place is, like, just the fucking coolest. Anyways, you guys, so embarrassing. So I was, like, a massive Lord of the Rings fan. So that's really why I was excited to go to New Zealand, which is so funny, like, my little 18-year-old brain. So yeah, so that was like my first international flight by myself. I remember I cried at the airport because I was just like so nervous to like fly by myself and like, like check a bag and like literally collect my bag and then recheck it and then, go through customs and, catch a connecting flight and all that shit. Like I was so nervous. And like on the way there, I flew by myself. And then like, nobody. So like I didn't know it was a bunch of kids from different universities from all over the US. So I didn't know one person. But obviously I made it and it was fine. And I remember getting off the flight and like we landed and getting into the van and you're kind of meeting everybody. They broke us up into smaller groups of like 15 maybe less than that. And we went to different communities all over the North and South Island of New Zealand to do like our specific like volunteer work for 2 weeks. And then the second 2 weeks, so we were there for a month in total. The last 2 weeks we all like grouped back together with like the big group. And then we went on like a bus, like a road trip, like up and down the North and South Island. It was amazing. So when we first landed, we get in the bus and I'm just like, or on the, in the van and we meet our like team leader lady. Her name was Siri. She was so cute. Uh she was just super cute, like very sweet woman and like super excited to meet us and she was a local and yeah, it was just I was like, "Oh, this is going to be so much fun. She's great." And then I started to, kind of slowly meet all the other people and then really quickly there was like a couple people who specifically one at that point. It was one dude and I can't even remember his name. But he came in, like, real hot, you know what I mean? We all know those people have, like, an ass ton of energy, and they kind of, like, take over the situation, and, like, immediately when we got on the bus, like, we just landed, you guys, like, it was like a I've been traveling for, like, 2 days, like, it's a trek from the East Coast of the US down to New Zealand, and, this guy gets on the bus and he's like, "Yeah, like, where are we gonna go hiking today? Like, where's a mountain? Like, what can we do?" Like, that kinda energy, like, dude looked like he, like, did triathlons and shit, and I'm like, "Bro, huh?" And, like, the, Siri, our leader, she was just like, "Yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea, like, maybe we should just do something, like, chill today and, like, you guys can acclimate," and But, you know, somehow we got roped into climbing a mountain the very first day we got there. So we drop our shit off at the hostel, change our clothes. My dumbass, I put on like a puffer North Face like ski jacket and like hiking boots. And off we go. And we get there. And like these New Zealanders, you guys are built different. I'm not even kidding you. They're like, I don't know what's in the water, but they're all like 5-star athletes. Like, I don't know what it is. But we get there and we're like hiking up this mountain. And I'm like not super thrilled. And I'm like, who is this dude? Like, what was his name? I swear it was like Tyler or something. I can't remember his name. Anyways, so we start hiking this mountain, and then here comes like the local like New Zealanders, and they're like running up and down the mountain in like shorts and a t-shirt and tennis shoes. And I have like a North Face puffer jacket on, can barely breathe. I'm like 20 pounds overweight at this point because I hadn't been diagnosed with PCOS, but this is right around the time that my symptoms flared because I stopped birth control. So I was like 20 pounds heavier than I've ever been in my life. I like could not breathe. The altitude was like no joke. The top of this hike, there was snow. So like that tells you like from the base of this thing up to the top, it was like no joke. Like it was a steep climb all the way up. No breaks. And so there was like 3 or 4 of us who didn't quite make it to the top. Like we just like could not breathe. And the rest of them went up and we came back down and had a flat tire, which of course you would. And so it was just like one of those days. But immediately something about that dude triggered me so bad. And for the rest of the trip, like I literally gave him the stank eye. I was like, shut up. Like, no one wants to hear what you have to say. Like, I was like a massive bitch. Like, I'm not even kidding you. And I think in the beginning, I tried to like keep it low key. But I think after a while, he was like, and he kind of took it on the chin too. He was like, yeah, you don't like me, do you? And I was like, no, I actually really don't. Like, you're too much. Like, just calm down. You know what I mean? And, so yeah, so, like, I had that kinda energy, like, remember I'm, like, 18. So, I had, like, no filter at that point. I was, like, such a massive bitch back in the day. And, yeah, he knew. You know what I mean? Like, there was no real hiding it. But I didn't think it was, like, that big of a deal. It seemed like he, like, took it in, like, stride and was like he probably gets that a lot. You know what I mean? Like, he was, like, pre-med and, like which this is bad to, like, stereotype, but you guys I'm trying to paint the picture, like, pre-med, like, super driven, like, fucking athlete already, like, I don't know what he did, like, he was just, like, probably, like, organized, like, every day of his life, like, to the minute kinda energy, and, like, that's so opposite of me, not like it's bad, not like it's bad at all, but at that point at 18, I was like, "Yo, I've never met anybody like this is crazy, and you're not gonna overtake my trip, I can tell you right now, you're gonna run into a brick wall real quick." So anyways, he got on my nerves a little bit, right? So that was number 1. Then number 2 comes around, this character named Bonnie. She was the only other one for Virginia, right? And so I was like, "Yo, that's cool, like, we're in the same, you know, place." Like, we stayed in this super cute hostel in this town called Kaikoura, and Kaikoura is absolutely stunning, beautiful. It's, like, known for, like, whale watching, and it was just we had the most beautiful experience there, we really did, and we worked so hard, right? We planted, like, 4,000 trees in 7 days, and we were, like, in the jungle or the forest, whatever they you know, whatever you call it, like, ripping these, like, invasive vines off the trees because they grow up and then they cover like the canopy of the trees so then like no direct sunlight can get down and it affects the ecosystem. And so we were like ripping out shit like that, climbing around, like, you know, it was like manual labor, like, and I was happy to do it. I was like all game. Like I loved every second of it. But Bonnie, on the other hand, Bonnie gave like librarian energy, like, which again is not bad. Like, let me say that, it's not bad at all. But when you sign up to do, like, a trip like this, and you know you're gonna be doing volunteer work, and you know it's gonna be kinda backbreaking work, and we were waking up at, like, 5 o'clock in the morning, and, like, we were going, like, nonstop. And there were, like, pockets of, like, super fun stuff that we did, you know, in the first 2 weeks. But if you know that, it's like it was like it just grinded my gears that she every single day, like, had some sort of excuse. It was just so exhausting to me. But then when we would do fun things and, like, have, like, excursions and, like, go swimming with whales and, like, whatever, it's like, no ailments, totally fine, like, ready to go. And I just was like, "Yo, you didn't do one thing today. Like, how is this, like, it's just not right." You know what I mean? Like, so I definitely had a complex about Bonnie, and I was definitely a catty, mean girl bitch to her. I can't remember anything specifically, to be honest with you, because that was, like, over a decade ago, but I do remember the energy I put out. It was just kinda like, "Oh my god, here we go with Bonnie again. Like, what the fuck is it today, Bonnie? Like, oh my God, what is it today? And that wasn't nice. So we have the trip, right? And then in the second half, like we make it through whatever. We do our volunteer work. It's amazing. I had the time of my life. Then we do the second half of the trip and we get back in with the whole group. So like I didn't really see Bonnie or we'll say Tyler again and like it was fine. Um and we went around and we did like I did bungee jumping, skydiving, whitewater rafting, zorbing, paragliding, splunking. Oh my God. Like we did everything. Like everything under the sun that I could do. They were like, "Do you want to do this? Yes. Do you want to do this? Yes. Do you want to do this? Yes. Do you want to do this? Yes." I just did everything. So, and I made some like really, fun connections with some people. And there was like a group of there was three of us and we just like really hit it off and we just did everything together and we had so much fun. So I get back and don't think anything of it. You know what I mean? Like a couple years goes by and still, don't think anything of like I just like had an amazing fucking time, changed my life. I loved that trip so much. I even wrote my dad a letter, like thanking him so much for like giving me money to go because I had to fundraise, but I didn't quite make enough money. So I can't remember if he just gave me extra spending money or if he paid the rest, like of the we had to fundraise a certain amount of money to go. So, anyways, yeah, I was like super grateful and I wrote my dad a letter and just like explaining to him how much that trip meant to me and like if it just changed my life and I was just so grateful that he gave me the money to do that and I was so appreciative and he didn't have to do that, I'm 18 and like I'm an adult and you know what I mean? So anyways, he cried, I cried, it was fine, it was cute. So like that's how much that trip meant to me and like how much of a good time I had. So a couple years goes by and like at this point I'm in between. I had stopped working for my dad's company and I was like I'm like I don't know what to do. I was like on like what's it called? Unemployment. I was getting unemployment. Like that's the only income I had. It was like 300 bucks a week. And like I moved out of my apartment with my friend because the rent was too high. And I moved in with my brothers. And like, it was just like an interesting time. I looked back too, just out of curiosity, because I tried to find this email that I'm about to talk about. And the amount of jobs that I applied to, you guys, holy shit. I had like a whole journal because I had to keep track. I had to continue to apply to I think I'd apply to like 5 a week in order to get unemployment checks. So for people that hate on people that get unemployment, I don't know how they're getting the checks unless they're like putting in the work because I had to apply to so many jobs in order to get my check. And I had to send in the like evidence every week. Okay. So don't hate on people that are on that, okay? And it helped me. It gave me such a sense of security. I did have a savings, but like I made changes. Like I knew I needed to move out of that apartment because it was too expensive. And like I hated to let my best friend down. And like, I mean, luckily somebody moved in after me, so it was okay. But like I knew like I couldn't pay 1,500 bucks a month. Like didn't even have a job. I'm like, I gotta go. And like thank God my brothers like let me move into like their room, it was like a side room. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I was like super incredibly lucky and like very grateful. So at that point I was like, maybe I'll go back to get a master's degree. I was applying to be a flight attendant. Like I just had all kinds of shit, irons in the fire. You know what I mean? So I applied to the Master's of Public Health program at VCU, and I had asked Siri, who was our like team leader during the volunteer part, I had asked her to if she would write me a recommendation for the volunteer work. So she was like, "Yeah, of course, like absolutely, no worries. Like hope you're well." So she wrote me the recommendation. And then in the second email where she was like, "Hey, I sent it in. Let me know if you need anything else." I just wanted to say like I hope that I can't remember exactly what she said. I tried to find the email, you guys. I couldn't find it. Uh she said something basically along the lines of like be a nicer person and like I hope you've grown and like I was like, "Oh." It was like a dagger to my heart. It felt like a gut kick because I was like, "Oh no, like that's how she remembers me. That is how she remembers me." Like I was like the mean girl on the trip. Like that's how she remembers me. And it was so embarrassing, guys. I've never told anybody the story. It's so embarrassing and it's so mortifying for me. And I'm so ashamed of like how I used to behave and like how mean I used to be. And yeah, I'm like super grateful that she called me out because I'll never forget that. And I was so ashamed and so like I was just so bummed out too. I was just like, damn, I really liked Siri and I'm sad that that's how she'll remember me forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's no going back. Like I'm never gonna see her again to like show her how much I've changed or whatever. Like she's always going to remember me in like that time frame. And like that's the word legacy. I was like, that's like my legacy at that point in my time and in my life. So people who met me and like knew me in that point up to that age, those ages, like that's what they're going to remember about me. You know what I mean? They might not know who I am now and like, how I operate in the world now. And to me, that makes me really sad. And I wanted to share that story because I just feel like people don't think about their legacy and like people don't think about how they're leaving people. You know what I mean? Like their attitude or like how they show up at work or like how they treat people. Like, are you leaving people better than how you found them? And I never thought about that a day in my life. Like, never thought about that a day in my life until she sent me that email and it really woke me up. And I was so ashamed of how I behaved. And I was just like, Caroline, you can do better. Like, and it still took me years to get to like the place that I'm at now. Like, I was like 24 probably when that email happened, and I definitely still had my issues, but I started therapy later that year. And so that's really when I started to open up to the idea that like, hey, it is me. You know what I mean? Like you got to do better because look at your life. Like you don't have a job, you're living at your brother's, like you're being a brat. You're like, woe is me. You know what I mean? Like I was just in like a bad spot. I was like dating like super toxic men, like awful shit, like treated me like dog shit for real. And that's when I just decided like enough is enough. And so yeah, I started in therapy and like that's really when the doors kind of flung open and I was just like, okay, like I have to take accountability for like my behavior and like how I show up in the world because that's what's happening. You know what I mean? I'm doing this to myself. There's nobody else doing this to me. I'm choosing to date these people. I'm choosing to be an asshole to like random strangers that I don't know, like in New Zealand. Like I'm choosing all this shit. And it was very much the opposite for me up until that point of like pointing the finger at everything else around me. Maybe not specifically other people, but like you know what I mean? Like, why is this happening to me? Like you know what I mean? Like that kind of energy, like this like victim in life. And yeah, so it just got me thinking, like that example really got me thinking about the word legacy. And then weirdly enough, you guys know I had my astrology reading, which I'm also going to get into and share about. I had my astrology reading last week and my north node is in Capricorn, which I'll get more into that. But the word legacy kept coming up and she kept saying it too. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is so weird. Like it's kind of like showing up everywhere now. And like that's when I really know it's like a topic that I need to like bring up and like probably put on other people's radars because they're not thinking about it or maybe you know what I mean like they've had similar situations as me and like had these really shameful moments in their life and I'm not about beating myself up. You guys know that. Like I'm not about to like beat myself up about it. I was like 18, 19 years old. It was also like very much immature behavior. Um so I'm not going to beat myself up about it and like look what I am now. Like I don't act like that anymore. Like I really do not. Like I don't even have that energy to give to other people anymore. Like I have none of it. Uh that mean girl is definitely gone. So it was just very it was eye-opening to me. And I was also just really proud of like how far that I've come and how much I've grown and how much I've evolved as a person. And I just wanted to share that story because people don't really think about legacy. And like all people, I don't know that like it's just like all the little things that we do day in and day out, like that's what creates our legacy. That's what people remember. It is very true that you remember how people made you feel, not like what they said or what they did. Cause like I can't remember that email and like what she said to me. Like I can't remember verbatim, but I remember the gist. And I remember like her calling me out and me being like, oh my God, I'm so disappointed in myself. Like that's awful, Caroline. Like that's terrible. Like that's how she's going to remember you forever. And like you made people feel bad in this life. Like that's terrible. You know what I mean? And so side note, Bonnie or Tyler, I think was his name. If you're listening, I apologize. Like, oh my God, it's so embarrassing. Um, but yeah, so I just thought I would bring it to like you guys, like the radar, because what I think about it is like if you're operating like living a life where you're really trying to grow and evolve in this lifetime and you're really trying to follow your soul's purpose and you're you're really trying to like do better and like look in the mirror and like try and figure yourself out on a little bit of a deeper level instead of like I said, like pointing the finger at other people or being a victim in life. Like I feel like you're always going to have a good legacy in this life because your life is going to change in ways that just are natural to that. Do you know what I mean? Like you're going to eventually just start taking accountability. You're not going to take random shit out on random people that's going on in your life because that's a lot of what was going on with me. It's like I had all this deep-seated hurt and pain and anger, but I'd never even touched it with a 10-foot pole. Like I had no idea it was there. But I would have these emotional outbursts and I would take shit out on other people and would blame it on them. Like, well, they shouldn't have done that. Like da 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 da. Da. You know what I mean? And now I just don't live that way. Like I'm very much self-aware and I'm very grounded and I understand it's always reflects back at you. It's always something within yourself. And so I feel like if you live that way and like if you make a concerted effort to get to know yourself on a deeper level, like you're always just going to have an inherent more positive legacy. Like it might not be, you know what I mean? You can't please everybody. Like don't get it twisted. But I just feel that way. Like if you're moving in the world, like really trying to operate from a soul place and like from a higher, level, like just a being more conscious aware, of like who you are and like how you run around in this world. I just feel like inevitably you're going to have a better legacy. And so I don't think I never really thought of it that way of like until that moment, until that example happened where it wasn't like this big thing that like I was going to leave as my legacy, but like if I didn't change my life, if I didn't change my attitude, if I didn't change the way I operated and the way I treated people, that would be my legacy. And I've seen it happen. I know somebody very close to me who will have a terrible legacy and already has a terrible reputation. And I think it's really sad. And I think that they don't care and they constantly just behave in the same manner and they constantly talk down to people and yell at people and have a tone with people that's very condescending and very unkind and will call people idiots and yell at people on the phone. And you know what I mean? That's their legacy. Like that's what you're leaving behind. And you definitely do have one. You know what I mean? Like the person that I'm talking about, because I've heard it with my own ears and I've been told. So I see it firsthand. Like how you operate in the world is what you're gonna leave behind. And I think it's really sad. And like when I die, like I don't want people to like not have anything to say at my funeral or like struggle to find like nice things to say or have nice memories or you know what I mean? I'm just like, damn, like I want people to like remember nice things about me and to have like and sure, I mean, I guess that could be ego too. But I do feel like if you're operating at like a soul level, like it's not really your ego. It's like I want people to feel good that are around me. I want to leave them better than how I found them. I want them to know that like I care about them and I appreciate them and like I am a safe space for people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't wanna feel the opposite. Like, I've been there, done that for, like, the first, like, 20 some years of my life, and that shit doesn't feel good. And actually, it's very, like, circular because the more people called me a bitch and, called me words like that and said that, at the same time, like, it was a protective mechanism for me, but it made me feel even worse about myself because I felt even more misunderstood because 'cause I'm like, "That's not me." Like, I'm actually not mean at all. Like, it would make me even more upset that people would say those things about me. But that is what I was projecting out into the world. So I don't blame those people because like, that's exactly what I was putting out into the world. But, like, inside of me, I was, like, so hurt and so upset that I had that reputation for myself. I had that kind of a legacy. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm kind of droning on about it, but I just thought I would bring it up to everyone's attention and just as like a little reminder and like maybe like take note of like how are you leaving people like and of course legacy can be other things like financially and like, through your children and whatever, but for me I don't have any of that. So it's just me. So it's like how I walk around in the world and how I treat other people and how they feel in my presence. That's really important to me, and like, means a lot to me for people to have positive things to say about me and, you know And I know I've changed, and I know my legacy has changed, and, like, thank God for that. And a lot of you guys that send me messages are the reason why I know it's changed, because you guys send me, like, the sweetest, kindest messages and things that it just, like, brings tears to my eyes every time, because I know I've just come so far, and I know I'm on the right path because of the feedback that I get from you guys. And, people telling me, like, "You're a light in this life, and you bring so much joy," and, like, it make me tear up a little bit, you guys, like, it means a lot. So, because 'cause I've lived in the opposite and making people feel like shit, and, I'm so grateful for Siri calling me out for that, because that might have just missed my radar, like, my entire life if she had never said anything. Um, so yeah, so also call out the people in your life and, like, make them aware of their behavior, you know what I mean? And, like, make them understand, like, "Hey, like, you're treating people poorly." Like, remember, you can even have your boundaries, because it's definitely, I'm not saying be kind to everybody and let people run all over you because you're worried about your legacy. No, not at all. Like, definitely have your boundaries, and you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Like, you're just not. But listen, if I got 80% of people saying, like, kind things about me, and, like, the overall gist is, like, Caroline's a good person, like, I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm good. I don't need every single person in the whole fucking world that I meet to, like, shout my praises. I don't need that. I don't want that. I don't care about that. But, like, overall in general, I'm gonna have my boundaries, and I'm gonna stay healthy for me. Um, and even in, these, harder situations in life, I just hope and pray that I can really remain above the fray and remain the person that I know I can be. And even when I am tested at my deepest core level, I just hope I can still act in have some constraint and have some kindness and compassion. And it's a work in progress, sweetie, work in progress, because I know there's been situations that that's not happened, and I've definitely dropped the ball. But I don't hold, shame about it. I just forgive myself and forgive the other people involved, and, like, take the lesson from it, and you just keep going, and do better. And that's what I do. So, I thought that was an interesting little story. And I'm always so thankful to my spirit guides for, like, bringing stuff to my attention, because it is a good reminder, you know what I mean? And, like, the days that I show up to work and maybe I'm not as, like, happy or joyous or whatever, I feel like it bleeds into the team. And, I try and really be more conscious of how my energy's coming out in the world. And even if I'm have shit going on in my life and not feeling my best, I really do, especially at work, I really do try and, like, leave it all behind. And I really try and walk in the door and just be positive, because, my patients come first, and, like, they're going through a lot. And these people, they have to come to a clinic 3 days a week, and, like, their life revolves around dialysis, and, like, that can't be easy, and it's not fun. So it's like the least I can do is show up and smile, and, be encouraging for them and make them feel better, you know? So, yeah, just a lot of little things that have popped up here in the past week or so that I was like, "You know what? That's a good point to share, and it's a good reminder." So, yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that. Also, did I talk about this before? No, I didn't. I don't think I brought her up. You guys, okay, so back to the rugby chat really quick. There is a player on the New Zealand team who I am obsessed with. She's actually not even playing. She tore her ACL for, like, the 4th time. She's out. She didn't play in this Olympics, but she says she's gonna be back in 2028, and I'm gonna go watch her in LA, okay? Because I love her so much. Her energy is unmatched. Like, she is so fucking funny. Her name is Sheree Kaka, Kaka. She's married to, a male, like, a professional male, like, rugby athlete, and his last name is Kaka as well. Gillies Kaka, I believe is his name. If you're, like, familiar with rugby, maybe you know him. He played for the All Blacks, I believe. Uh, so anyways, I found her on TikTok when I was, like, going down these, like, rabbit holes. I follow her, like, she was, like, the first one I followed. I was like, "Oh, dude, she's funny as shit." Her and her husband have, like, a TikTok, and they're so cute and so funny, and, like, have such a real relationship. And, yeah, she's just been out, you know what I mean? And she shares, like, how devastated she was, and, about not making the Olympic team this year because of her injury. And I listened to her on a podcast called What a Lad. And I was so inspired. I was walking last night and I walked like 3 miles because I was just like listening to her on this podcast. She's so unfiltered, so authentic. She just keeps it real and like, has a sense of humor about it all. And I just relate to that so much. And I appreciated her vulnerability. Like she got tearful at some points. And she also talked about like being in some really low places in her life and like drugs and alcohol and like fucking things up for herself, like putting like what I just explained, like a lot of this stuff is self-induced. And so if you have a minute, like I'm telling you, like go listen to at least that podcast episode if you're like going on a walk or whatever. She's so entertaining and her life is so interesting. And I just appreciate people who kind of like have been through it a little bit in life and like they're really honest and like she takes accountability for her shit in her life and looking back and like, she has some embarrassing moments and shameful moments like I just explained, like and it's the same energy. It's like it just is what it is, and you try and make up for it, and you just try and be a better person. And she's got her healer on speed dial, which I love. Like the girl's into the woo woo stuff, so like shout out, okay? So yeah, I just wanted to shout her out and like give her some more. Like you guys go follow her on TikTok. She's funny as shit. Like I literally have gone through so many of her TikToks and just been like cracking up. Like literally, I'm not even kidding. Like hours, just like watching this chick on TikTok. It's so funny. So, I'm rooting for her and I hope she heals and has her surgery and gets back out there and, accomplishes her goal of playing in the 2028 Olympics. And like, I hope to be out there in like LA watching her. Like, that would be so amazing. So I think it's LA. I don't really know. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because like I just wanted to shout her out, you guys. Like she's so cool. And I just knew, like, when you match with someone's energy, like right off the bat, like even through social media, I was just like, oh, I love this girl. Like she's fucking funny and like doesn't take it too seriously, but like she's still vulnerable and like cries and like she's like keeps it real. You know what I mean? And I just like respect that so much in this world of like people who just try and like keep up with the Joneses and like I'm like sometimes I look at people and I'm like, who even are you? Like, who would take the mask off? Just, like, be real. Just, like, say a cuss word. Just, like, you know what I mean? Like, make mistakes in life. Like, that's how humans learn, unfortunately. Like, that's what God made our lessons to be is, like, we have to learn the hard way, unfortunately. But it creates the best stories and the most, like, adversity is, like, how we thrive and how we grow into our best selves. And so I just love hearing that about other people. And I love when people are, like, willing to be, like, open and throw it out on the line and be like, "Listen, I'm not trying to hide anything. Like this is what it was. Like this is what happened and I was an asshole." You know what I mean? So shout out to her. Shout out Sheree, Sheree Ray. I love her, you guys, and I'm kidding. Okay. So after that, what did I want to? Oh, the astrology reading, you guys. Okay, let me break it down for y'all. Let me break it down. I only want to talk about a few things because I didn't want to really like bore you guys with like my story of like the ins and outs of my karmic astrology reading. But I did want to talk about a few things because you guys can look it up for yourself if you're interested. So I wanted to do like some general points, and then like what she said, you know what I mean, like about my life and like how it related to me and stuff like that. So I had a karmic uh astrology reading. So she took my birth chart and then she also did like the solar returns. So she did like birthday to birthday. So like where I am kind of now and then like where I'll be by my next birthday, which was interesting. And it's also very dependent on the location. So I might have to redo it because I guessed a location that I might live in like a year because I know I won't be here. I better not be here, God. You hear me? I am not playing. Whatever lessons I'm here to learn, I'm trying, sweetie, because I'm trying to get up out of here, honey. But listen, let me tell y'all, it was very helpful and it was very eye-opening and it put a lot of the puzzle pieces together for me. And there was a lot of things that I already knew. Like I knew it, I felt it. Like you guys know I'm estranged from my dad and my brother and my stepmom at this point in life. And that's been like pretty tough. And I was worried about the karma. Like I was worried about my own karma and I was worried like did I veer off the path so far that something like that happened or was that like kind of written in the stars for me and 100% written in the stars. like unavoidable, like so much energy towards that for like my entire life. Like that's what my whole birth chart is about. Like literally family wounding, family, 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 father, father, father. Like you can't make this stuff up. So it really just kind of the things that I knew and the things that I felt, and like you guys know, like I trust my intuition without a doubt. And like the day when all the shit went down and it was so elevated and so there was so much emotion, it was so painful. It was the worst day of my life. I still felt extremely grounded and I felt extremely okay with my decisions. And I felt like I felt I had so much clarity in all the chaos and all the, horribleness of that day. I just remember feeling so centered. Like I knew exactly what I needed to do. And very interesting that it showed up in my chart too. So, anyways, we'll jump in. So, basically, we started with the south node. So, she talked about the node. So, you have a north node and a south node. Your south node is where you're really comfortable. It's kind of like she explained it to me like I probably had past lives in this energy. I'm very comfortable in it. It comes innately. It comes very naturally. It's like where I'm comfortable. I'm also a 28-degree Cancer in South Node. So at the 28th degree, she's like, it's like really well-worn energy. Like you're really ready to jump into your North Node in this lifetime, which I feel. And so Cancer in the South Node, she said it's kind of like the mother energy of the zodiac. The crab is the symbol for Cancer, for those that don't know. So kind of like that motherly energy, nurturing, likes to be in nature, likes to have a comfortable home, likes to take care of other people, likes to like cook and, very family oriented. The shadow side of that can be the extreme. So like codependent, needy, afraid to be alone, um, leaning into that tough, like crab shell and like not, letting your vulnerability kind of be seen. So yeah, those are kind of like the like what the Cancer energy is like and like the shadow side of it. So it was really interesting because I've always known my South Nodes in Cancer and I've read all about it and I was always just like, God, that does not resonate with me. Like she was like, you've probably been a mother in a past life or a healer or like a nurse or something like that. Like those things come very naturally to you. And I've never really felt that way until nursing school, I have to say. And then nursing came to me just really easily, which I did not expect. And I don't think anybody expected that. But it just came very naturally to me. I always connected with my patients. I always had really great experiences with them. And, especially the mental health patients. Like I just always felt like I really understood them and I had so much empathy and compassion for them and I always felt so bad and other nurses would have a really hard time and they would be like, "Well, watch out for this one." And then I'd go in and like have the best shift ever and felt like I made such a little bit of a dent in their life and like hopefully help them in a positive way. And so I had a lot of experiences like that as a nurse and it was just very strange for me kind of. And so I never really related to like the Cancer side. I was just like, I don't know. And I don't feel very motherly. I don't feel there are certain aspects like I do love nature. I love having a comfortable home. I love cooking. I love taking care of myself. I love cooking for like I'm here with my mom. I cook for my mom all the time. Um and there is something about like keeping a nice home and all those things like I do enjoy that. And I enjoy like cleaning and I really do. Like I enjoy it. So I never really thought about certain things like that, and then she's like, "Well, remember that you might have been operating in, like, the shadow side of it for a lot of your life, because it's not a very sometimes it doesn't work that way, that you just, like, come in and, like, we have things that happen in our lives, and we have societal, expectations, and we have family expectations, and we have traumas, and we have all these things," and she was like, "It could be very much so that you kinda went into that shell, and you operated out of more of like fear and like protection mode and like you were a little bit more prickly and like when you think of a crab they're always like moving side to side with the claws up, you know what I mean, like they're ready to fucking go. So that's what I felt like, and when she said that I was just like, okay, like that makes sense to me because I do feel like on the inside I'm very soft, very nurturing, extremely sensitive, like very sensitive, you know what I mean? But on the outside and for like the first like 20 some years of my life, I was like that like outward like attacking crab. You know what I mean? And that showed up in New Zealand. Like, I was very much so like, I had the reputation of being a bitch and, like, being a mean girl and, Caroline doesn't take shit from anybody and, like, watch out kinda energy, and, like, that can be a good thing and sometimes, but, like, not all the time, but, like, it was like that all the time. Like, I was a very angry teenager. I was very, I had a lot of hurt that came out as anger. I never and this is also what she explained to me, so that my Chiron, which for those that don't know, Chiron is the wounded healer of the zodiac. My Chiron is in the my fourth house, which is also the house of Cancer. And Cancer is like extremely family oriented. And what was explained to me is that that means that you're going to have like a wound from your family that you're gonna need to heal. Like, that's kind of what's gonna happen over your lifetime. Like, your family is gonna hurt you very deeply, and you're gonna have to learn how to, like, find safety within yourself. You're gonna have to learn how to love yourself. You're gonna have to learn how to, like, let go of that pain, and you're gonna have to learn how to, like, do it for yourself. You know what I mean? Like, going more into, like, independence, and that couldn't be more true, you know what I mean? And so I think that that is also why I operated from a crab shell, like, from that hard exterior and, like, from that defensive place because and I say these things, like, not to, like, put my family down, like, it just is what it is. It's just, it's, like, my experience and it's my childhood and it's, like, what I felt and what I look back on, like, what I talked about in therapy and, like, to have it show up in an astrology reading, it just kind of, like it kinda makes it even more make sense to me, and, like, I wasn't just, like, randomly feeling shit that was, like, random. Like, it was real stuff that was happening, and, I never really felt safe, and, like, I think that that's why I felt the need to, like, have that hard shell exterior because and I don't say this as, like, my family was abusive or, like, no my god, like, nothing like that. But emotionally, it was never, like, entirely and I don't know if anybody else in my family felt this way, and it's really none of my business, but this is, remember, my experience, and I'm not saying it to, like, belittle anybody in my family at all. And I'm not angry, I'm not resentful, I none of that energy. I'm just, like, explaining what started to make sense for me. Um, Emotionally, there was never really a safe space to, like, express myself or, like especially when my parents got divorced. That's a big pain point for me, and I was only 13, and there was just no talking about it, there was no like, I was not allowed to express myself. And usually what happened and, like, I don't really remember anyone ever, like, checking in on me or, like, asking me, like, "Hey, how are you? Are you okay? You seem a little bit more irritated and mad, and, like, maybe you're taking some stuff out that's a little bit deeper." Like, no one ever brought that to, like, my conscious, like and granted, I was, like, you know what I mean, like, 16 and, like, yeah, like, temperamental, like, teenager. So it's, like, difficult, and, like, I think my parents did the best they could for sure. But I think that created, like, this I didn't feel safe to, like, say anything to anybody because I didn't think anyone cared, and sometimes I remember, like, when I would mention certain things, it was shut down very quickly, or just kind of, like, tossed out like, "Well, Caroline, everyone has their shit, like, it's okay, like, you're fine." You know what I mean? Like, that kinda energy, and I just never really had it wasn't until I got into therapy where I felt safe and it was okay for me to, like, talk to someone about, like, real stuff and, like, how I really felt without someone, like, taking it personal or, like, attacking me back or, placing blame on me or, you know what I mean, like, trying to take away my feelings because I felt like that kinda happened a lot, like so that creates, like, this sense of, like, not feeling unsafe in your own body, like, in your own feelings and, like, not knowing if, like, I'm really feeling this way or, like because when people don't really give you the validation of it, like, sometimes or, like, say, like, "Oh, okay." You know what I mean? Like, I understand how you would feel that way. Like, when you don't even get that, like, it's you kind of feel a little gaslit by yourself. You're kind of like, "What? Am I just dramatic? Like, am I just making this up? Like, what's happening?" And because I had so much energy and, like, so much pain built up that it would come out in other ways. Like, like I said, I was, like, very angry, and I had a lot of, like, emotional outburst, and I don't think, like, birth control helped and, like, a lot of different factors going on at that age, you know what I mean? And, anyways, it definitely the idea of, like, this Chiron, this wounded healer in that and, like, having to find my safe space, which I'm in now, you know what I mean? I've created that for myself. I feel very like I relate to that so much, and I didn't realize that that's what I was doing and, like, putting up boundaries and, like, taking certain people out of my life and, like, I have been creating a safe space for myself, and if other people around me can't appreciate that or don't wanna partake in, like, having safe communication and those kinds of things, then it's kind of like it's a no-brainer for me and I'm out, you know? Um, so it makes sense to me why that would be there, and I didn't even realize that before, and I'm like, "Okay, well, I just thought I was, like, losing my marbles," you know what I mean? And, like, just being dramatic and, like, just hormonal, like a crazy girl that's, like, on birth control and, like, fucking crazy, like, I don't know, you know? And so when I look back at it was pretty tumultuous for me, like, internally. It was very much a very hard battle, and I remember very difficult for me like, this is getting a little personal, which I don't wanna share too much about it because it's also, you know what I mean, talking about my family in a way, but my dad, like, kinda moving on this was, like, a big point for me, and I talked about it in therapy, like, him moving on and being happy and having a girlfriend and who is now, you know, my stepmom, and that was incredibly hard for me, like, I didn't meet my stepmom probably until I was, like, 17 or something like that, and they'd been dating for quite a couple years maybe before, but it was really hard for me to, like, see my dad be happy and, like, "Woohoo, I'm in love," and, like, all this stuff, and I'm gallivanting to Canada, and I'm doing this, I'm going on this hiking trip, and I'm going here, and da 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 da, and, like, I felt very and, like, I was struggling. You know what I mean? So it's hard to be like I held a lot of resentment against my dad for that because I was over here struggling and depressed and like trying to like make it through like these fucking teenage years that were just like a mess for me. And you know, then I look at my mom and she's struggling and then here's my dad just like living his best life. And it was really and he's the one that decided to leave. So it was really hard for me to get over that. And it took a lot of therapy for me to like let that go and to, like, not hold it against my dad and to, like, heal myself from that. And I definitely got to that place, like, I was just like, "You know what? Like, I'm happy for my dad, like, my mom's in a better place, I'm in a better place, like, it's okay." You know what I mean? Like, we're fine, and just like I say, like, everything happens for a reason, and it's okay. And, that was, like, a big piece for me. It's like, again, like, another reason why I didn't quite feel safe because I didn't wanna ruin his happiness with, like, my unhappiness, and I felt guilty that I wasn't happy for him when he was happy. And so, yeah, it was just like a mind fuck, like, in those years, like, it really was, and I see why that wounded healer piece makes sense to me now and why I've been so incredibly fierce in my safety. And it's one of the very first things that I said when we got back that day when I everything went down with my dad and that situation that you guys know. One of the very first things that I said was like, it will never happen again like that. Like, I will never have a situation like that. I'll never be in a relationship like that. Like, I feel so unsafe. That's the word I use, like over and over and over. I was like, I do not feel safety in that relationship. I don't feel I feel unsafe, period. Like, that's what I said. And until I feel safe in those relationships that I decided to end, like, it's not the door's never gonna open. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm fierce in that, and I to see it in my chart now, it, like, really makes sense. So, very fascinating stuff, you guys, like and it just, like, makes me feel a little validated, I think, like because some of these feelings can be so intense, and I'm just like, "Damn, like, where does this come from?" Like, you know what I mean? And then you get a birth chart reading and it's like, "Oh, well, bingo. It's right there in black and white." And it's like, "Okay, well, shit." So, moving on, um, what the goal is in life, if you believe in astrology, is to, like, move towards your north node. So, my south node, like I said, was, like, this Cancer energy, very nurturing, like, mother-like energy. Sometimes it could be, like, on my experience of it, I was, like, on the extreme end, like, so I was, like, very codependent in relationships. I was, like, overly sensitive and just a mess, really, you know what I mean? And so that energy was very confusing to me. And so the goal is to move towards your north node. Your north node is like your destiny, your direction in this life, you know, growth and evolution. It's the goal. You know what I mean? It's like what you're trying to build your life towards. So my North Node is in Capricorn and my Saturn is also in Capricorn. So what she explained to me is that I got like a double whammy. And I'm like, of course I did. And then she also explained to me that Pluto has been hanging out over my North Node for the past 15 to 17 years. And it would probably explain a lot of what happened with my family and me and like why it came to a head because Pluto just moved into my 11th house out of my 10th house. So, and that was like in the past year. So it kind of makes sense, like a lot of what went down in the past year. But anyway, so that's really the goal is to like really heal your south node if that's necessary. And for me, it definitely was like I needed to like get back to that nurturing side of myself and like balance it out. You know what I mean? Like to not over give to people, like give enough to where I still satisfy that part of myself. But like one of the biggest lessons and what she explained to me was like boundaries is for me. And that's how I'm going to get to my North Node is like learning to set healthy boundaries was literally the key. Like it was going to be so important. It was going to be the jumping point for me to start on the trek towards my North Node. And I just found that so fascinating because that's what I feel like. I feel like once I moved to France and I put a physical boundary because I didn't know how to put like emotional boundaries, I didn't know how to do that quite yet. And then I went on this spiritual journey and I really learned so deeply and so much about myself and my shadow self. And out of that came a need to like really protect myself and protect where I am and protect how far I've come emotionally and like spiritually. And that's where the boundaries came in. And then, like I always say, it's really, you can set your boundaries right. And for me at that point, they were like really like brick walls, which I don't think is extremely healthy. But at that point, like I didn't really know. I was still testing the waters out for myself. And so those boundaries were like, I mean, brick wall. Like, so when I got home, and you guys know that situation, I think that boundaries was like a big part of it. I think there was a lot of miscommunication, but I think that the kind of smacking into my boundary of like talking to me in a specific way, um, it just hit that brick wall for me so hard. And there was no coming back from that. None. Um, and you guys know I've explained it before. Like that day was so chaotic and so crazy and so emotional, but like there was something so calm within me and so centered and so grounded in that decision to like, it's over. It's over, it's over, it's over. So I think a lot of that was boundaries. And in talking about that specific, you know, after she explained to me about my North Node in Cancer and I mean, North Node in Capricorn, which is about, it can be, it's like the patriarch of the zodiac, like the Cancer energy is the mother, Capricorn is like the father energy, which is interesting. All about independence, all about career, all about being driven. Still, Capricorn's known as like the spiritual adult, which I didn't realize either. They are known to be empathetic and caring, but like in creating like a concrete foundation for themselves. Um, Driven, resilient, ambitious, more focused on like themselves and like where they're headed in this life. And so, yeah, I think me starting to create boundaries like that and to hold fast and to really respect myself and to allow myself like that moment in time. She explained it to me too, like after she explained everything. And she was like, you know, I don't think, she was like, as hard as that situation is and how it can be perceived as such a big loss. I mean, you know, I don't have my dog anymore, which is the most painful thing out of that entire situation. And I'm estranged from my dad and my stepmom and my brother. And so out of that, like you can look at that as so much loss, you know what I mean? But I don't really see it that way because first of all, never say never. Like I'm always open to reconciliation and but like I said, like the safety has to be there and there's a lot of work and I don't really know I wouldn't even know where to start. But and I know that, you know, I kind of leave that stuff up to God, like I really do and if we're meant to like reconnect, we will. But anyway, so I think that that situation and the boundaries, what she said was like, it's a big win for you. actually. Like, kudos to you for being grounded in yourself, for respecting yourself, for setting the boundaries, and for following through. You know what I mean? And she was like, she told me, she was like, I don't even know you, but you seem incredibly grounded. And like that decision was not just like a willy-nilly decision for you. And I was like, no, like it absolutely wasn't. Like that day was chaotic and crazy. And they say don't make, decisions out of like emotion or whatever. But I can tell you right now, I've never felt more centered in my life. Like I knew there was no, I wasn't like running around the house like, oh my God, oh my God. Da, da, da. No, I was just like, hung up the phone, see you in an hour, hung up the phone. And I was just like, I'm going up there. Like, I got to go try and get my dog. Like, I'm done with this relationship. It's a wrap for me. I'm never going back. I have to try and get Marley. There's no other way. Like, I don't know what else to do. And I'm not going to live with myself if I don't even try and go get her, you know? And like that's where I came from. Like it wasn't like, oh God, I gotta go up there and create drama and like to show him. Like, fuck no. I was like, I just want to try and get my dog because the relationship's done. I'm never gonna speak to him again. Like it felt that way. Um, and like I said never, but it felt very final for me. It felt very finalized. So yeah, very written in the stars, unfortunately. So you just never know. You never know in life. And like I said, I never say never. I've learned so much from that experience, and it was such a big part of this journey that I'm on. And unfortunately, like it was a loss, but at the same time, it was a win. So it's kind of like a little bit of I don't know. Like I know you guys will know what I'm saying. Like it was a win for me, but it's like a loss at the same time. But I also feel proud of myself for like just like standing in my own power and like holding my fucking boundaries and being like, enough is enough. Like, you can't speak to me like that. Like, we have got to like solve these problems like in a nice manner. Like, we cannot keep doing this shit, you know? And, so yeah, so it was I do feel like at this point in my life that I'm pretty balanced between the two, the North Node and the South Node. And I feel like this podcast is a way for me to, kind of like declare my independence and being an intuitive healer and moving into the things that have really come naturally to me without having these family questions or this family imprint or caring what other people think about me. And that's really what she explained to me is like about moving into this Capricorn energy. Like it's very much about career. It's very much about your personal ambitions. And the exterior world will probably say, oh, she's selfish, she's this and that. But you've lived so many lives, giving so much to other people that now you've woken up in this life and you're like, I'm choosing me, dog. I'm choosing me. I've been given so much to so many people for so many lives. It's just like it's my turn, you know? And I try and do it in a respectful way. And I try and, like I don't want to do this by myself and I don't want to be alone. Like I want people to come with me and I want people to enjoy my life with me and I want, supportive family and I want supportive friends. And like I definitely do have that. And I've created a very um amazing circle of people in my life that are supportive and that care about me deeply. So, you can't really ask for much else, but like I know I'm on the path and I know I'm okay. And like, she pointed that out for me and just like made me see it on like a piece of paper and a chart and was just like, you're hitting the milestones and like you're hitting them and like flying past them and like you're doing it's amazing, like, what you're doing, and at your age, like, it's really incredible. And so that just made me feel really good, and we talked a little bit about my Saturn return. You guys, I know Saturn returns are so popular and, like, Casey Musgraves sang about it and, like, you know what I mean? Mine happened right at 30 years old, so we touched on that as well. You can look up your Saturn return, you guys, like, there's literally Saturn return calculators. You could just look it up and, like, Google it and figure out, what your Saturn return is. Mine is in Capricorn, obviously. I just, said that. So 2020 was my Saturn return right around in that time. And it makes sense. And I pulled out my old journal just to be curious and like, what was going on in 2020? COVID. So COVID had started um and this was also so interesting, you guys. Like there's so much family shit in my chart. Like I'm like, no wonder, man. Like, gosh. I thought I was like going crazy. Um, so yeah, Saturn return around, when I was 30, like right when I was 30. And I was down, this was 2020. I had finally left my staff position at the hospital. I'd started traveling because it wasn't even about the money. Like the money was great, but I wanted freedom. Like I wanted my own schedule. I wanted to take time off in between because these people at the hospital that I worked at, like they were telling you got to do mandatory overtime and like dumb shit like that. And I was like, I'm out of here. Like that's crazy. Mandatory overtime, kiss my whole ass with that. My whole entire ass. So it was just like a lot of that energy. And I just was like, I'm not your bitch. Like, I'm not here to like work myself into the ground for you. Like, period. I'm not gonna do that. You know what I mean? So I left and I travel nurse for that very specific reason. I wanted to take my power back. I wanted my control over my damn life. So I was down in Cape Carteret, North Carolina, as my very first contract. And this was like COVID was still going, but it wasn't as crazy as it was. Like they were still having the peaks like in the winter time. So that's where I was. It was winter and I was down in Carteret on a COVID assignment. And this was also so interesting because I wrote in my journal and I'd kind of forgotten about this, but as soon as I read it in there, like those feelings immediately came back and I knew I could see myself and exactly where I was sitting and exactly what I was wearing and how I couldn't even fully finish that entire voicemail. I was so upset. Cried for days. There was a situation that happened with my dad, and I think that that was the starting point, you guys. And I was like, my eyes were kind of opened a little bit to like the pain that someone could cause. And especially like coming from my dad, I just wasn't used to that. And I was just like, whoa, like that really fucking hurt, man. Like, damn, like, why would you do that? Like, why would you say that? Or like, say it in that way or like make me feel like it was just a mind fucking like I'm not gonna get into all of it, but like it had to do with COVID and just like scheduling changes and things like that. And I had just been through it that year with like COVID and I was a new nurse and like there was just so much going on for me, like in my world. And so then to like, I don't even know, like have plans canceled and basically be told because you're a nurse and you know what I mean? Like logically I understood it and I even wrote in my journal like I'm really trying not to take this personal, but I'm taking it personal. And I even wrote in my journal like I started with therapy back again because I really wanted to move through that pain point with my dad. I really knew it was like deep-seated stuff because that situation shouldn't have caused such an emotional reaction to me. I mean, I cried for days and it really hurt me to like my core. And anybody else, it probably wouldn't even have been water off their back. You know what I mean? So like I was like, I gotta dive into this. Like I don't know what this is and like why this is so hurtful to me. Um and that was really one of the and like it makes sense that it was my Saturn return because I felt like things were shifting for me. And I felt like I really remember feeling like my eyes were open a little bit and I kind of turned my head a little bit and I kind of was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. Like the trust started to I started to question the trust a little bit, like I really did in that relationship. And so, um, yeah, I started back in therapy around that time too. And I remember I got back into like a shitty like situationship. I got back into one of those when I got back from that travel contract. Um, and immediately like I saw through the bullshit. So like I was having these changes and like I knew I was having these changes and I felt different and I felt more like in control of myself and I felt like I was understanding that I needed to look inward, like these exterior things, like, this situation I just explained and like how emotional it made me. Like I knew I couldn't blame that on my dad. I was like, it's not him. Like, I mean, yeah, like what he said hurt me, but like at the same time, like I have to take accountability. Like I got to figure out why something like that like really set me over the edge. Like and why I cried for 2 days. Like, what is this? Um, and so like I was starting to do that work right around my Saturn return. I was like really starting to turn the page and be like, listen, you got to really start taking accountability for yourself out here. And I remember I got back into that really toxic situationship and it did not take long for me to be like, oh, okay, I see right through this. Like I know what this is. I know exactly what this is. And that one didn't last half as long as like the other toxic situationships that I'd been in the past. So I knew I was growing. I knew I was moving forward. Like I knew I was healing. I was like really starting to like be proud of myself. It wasn't perfect. Like I said, I was back in like a shitty situationship, but it didn't last as long. And like I saw directly through the bullshit. And like I did not question myself or my sanity when these people try and gaslight you and make you feel crazy, like these narcissistic men out here. I was just like, I'm good. I see it. I got it. I'm standing way firm in it. I got it. I see you all day, every day. I got it, bitch. Like, I see what you're doing. You know what I mean? And it didn't last half as long. So that was kind of my Saturn return. It wasn't anything like this big blow up, but like when I looked back and read through my journals, I was like, oh, like shit was starting to shift. Like it was really starting to change within me. I was really starting to see things a lot clearer, and I was like really starting to own my shit. I was really starting to like pay attention to myself instead of like other exterior things. You know what I mean? Starting to put it in practice, I should say. Like I remember like when I was 25, it became on my radar, like on my conscious radar. And then by 30, I was like practicing it. I was like actively like, okay, like I see it, I feel it, I got it, I know it. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to get through this? If I need to get back in therapy, I'm going to get back in therapy. And I did. And so, I was doing the things. Also, on my Saturn return, I was told I had a psychic reading, and she predicted what would happen 2 years later when I would move to France and I would, you know, put down roots in a way. And yeah, she didn't explain to me that it was going to end. But I definitely tried to put down roots. I went over there, moved all my shit, tried to make that relationship work, but it didn't happen. And that was she hit the nail on the head for that one. Minus the fact like she could have told me it was I didn't need to do all that. But yeah, all that was like going down in my Saturn return year. So that was interesting. And that I think looking back on it and like reading back through my journal, it's just very fascinating, guys, how life plays out. And I don't think it's all planned out. I do think we have free will. And I do think that it really depends on other people too, but I think some of this stuff is really written in the stars. And I think the intensity of it, like, did I have to become estranged from my dad and other family members? Probably not. No. You know what I mean? I probably didn't. It probably could have gone a different way. So it's like your astrology is not going to tell you like the specifics of that, but there's going to be overarching themes that it's going to tell you you're going to deal with for your life. And for me, getting the clarity that like family is just, it's kind of like that Achilles heel for me makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So, anyways, I'm trying to think of what else in that reading that was helpful. Really focused on like the north and south nodes. As far as like my solar returns, what she told me was that this year would be kind of like a lull year for me, which I knew. And I do feel that way, and like kind of like diving into things that interest me and like, continue to do this podcast. She was like, the podcast is like a yes, 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 all over your chart. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Um, she also said something very interesting. And she said, which I'm not going to tell y'all my meditation that I had because y'all are going to be like, Caroline is off the charts crazy. Like, what is this bitch smoking? So I'm going to leave my meditation personally to myself. But I had a meditation and it brought up some interesting things. And then she said to me, she said, I feel like I'm going to see you here in the future. And I'm going to be like, oh, I remember like doing a reading for her. And she was like really figuring shit out and like really coming into her own at that point. And now look at her, like, you know what I mean? Like insinuating like fame. And I asked her that. I was like, are you saying like fame or something? And she was like, well, it could be like you have Jupiter, wherever she said I had Jupiter. She was like, it wouldn't surprise me. No, not at all. And I do feel like you just have this charisma and like this personality that like people are drawn to, and that's a part of your chart. And I was like, are you gonna tell me I'm gonna be famous? Because like I'm so here for that. Like and I'm not even gonna tell y'all my manifestation, my uh meditation that I had. I'm not even gonna go there with you guys because it's just you guys will be like, what? This bitch is crazy. But like I'm here for it. Like put me in a gown and on the red carpet, sweetie, and have my hair and makeup done. I'm here for it. What I'm not here for is like the cancel culture because like my big fucking fat mouth would definitely get my ass canceled. But anyways, that was fascinating because I was like, girl, I just had a meditation about some shit like that. And you just saying that creeps me out. And she's like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm like, who knows, you guys? And you know what else is funny and interesting? Me and Oprah had the same north and south node. We have like the same kind of like underlying like foundational journeys in our chart. How fucking cool is that? Because like, look at Oprah. You know what I mean? Like, Oprah's the shit. Oprah's my girl. I have loved Oprah since, like, I even knew who Oprah was and, like, what she was about. I was watching that Oprah show on TV when I was, like, 13, and I ate every episode up. I loved it. I still love her, and I love who she is. I love her legacy. I love what she stands for. I love that she gives other people a platform to help humanity and be better, and oh my God, I just cannot say enough about Oprah. I fucking love her. And then to know we have the same like north and south node, I was like, of course we do. Of course we do. And when you think about her, it makes sense. Princess Diana's the same way. We have the same north and south node. Very interesting. But she, had a lot of like struggles as a child and went through a lot of trauma and a lot of family stuff. And then overcame that and became like this independent boss bitch and just like grinded it out and worked really hard. That's also Capricorn energy, just like putting your nose down and like getting it done. Um, and like look at her. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, hell yeah, Oprah, I'm coming, girl. I'm coming, Oprah. So I love it. I love it. I just thought that was so cool. I was like, yes, being Oprah. I love it. Very aspirational. I love her so much. And Princess Diana, I think, is interesting too, because I think by the time she was really moving into her North Node in Capricorn, I think she passed away. I think like that's really like when she was starting to get her independence, take her power back, leave the royal family, like date who she wanted to date, be out doing what she wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like I felt like that's really when she passed, unfortunately, but I felt like she was really moving into that energy. So very cool, you guys. Go get your charts read. It's just super helpful. It's just another one of those tools, you guys. It doesn't tell me my life. It doesn't tell me how to live. Like clearly shit went down regardless. And I know I spoke so much about my family shit, but like that's what my chart is. So sorry if I bored you guys to tears with that, but it's just what my makeup is. It's just a massive part of my birth chart is like this family energy and like this family wound and like all the shit. So I'm like, oh. So again, no shade to my family whatsoever. I love my family and it's just what it is. Like it just is what it is. And it's just no shade and it's no hard feelings and it just I'm human and I'm moving through it. So yeah, I encourage you guys to get your birth charts read. And remember and take a couple minutes to like think about your legacy and like how you're showing up in the world and like are you creating joy and are you setting boundaries for yourself and protecting yourself and doing it in a kind way and you know what I mean? Spreading love out into the world because we need it so bad, you guys. Like this world is like just fucked up. And if I can just make my little corner of it brighter and bring a smile to somebody's face and like remind people of like what's important and to just like spread love and kindness in the world, like I'm going to continue to do my part. So that's all I got for y'all this week. And I hope it was helpful. I hope it was entertaining. I hope it brought a smile to your face. I hope it was educational. I hope you learned a thing or two. Um, and yeah, have a wonderful week as always, you guys. Make sure you like and subscribe and do all the things. Give me some star ratings on the podcast if you would. I love you guys so much. Truly from the bottom of my heart. You guys know I always say this and I always appreciate your feedback and all your really sweet, 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 sweet messages. And like it's just the best. So, love you guys. Have a good week. Bye.